So what did you think? Let's rank this film on the Cageometer.
All right, that leads us to the most important question that we ask on this show. Vince, arbitrarily forever, where does Snake Eyes from 1998 rate on your Cageometer?
Man, I was going to give the movie a 7 because I love this movie. I really do. It's one of my favorite Cage movies just because it's just so silly. Up until we started breaking it down scene by scene, and then I was like, okay, I gotta drop this. I'm gonna drop it to a 6. Nostalgia had it a lot higher. Going back and actually diving into it, there's a lot of issues with the film that we talked about that we don't need to go into again. So that drops it down. I do love the pacing of it. It is paced so well because if it had dwelled, I think it would have really lowered my score. So it's good pacing, over the top acting at times, but there were some good moments. There was some good acting. Lieutenant Dan was pretty good for the most part. He did have some cagey moments himself, but I thought he did a great job. Music was okay. There were times like you talked about the horns just don't fit the tone. Knowing what the original ending was supposed to be to what we got definitely hurts this movie. Now that I know that, it hurts me, but overall still pretty good movie, regulation movie if I had to say myself. Cage's performance, oh man, I'll give him a 6 too. I feel like giving him a 7 might be a little bit too high just because he was so cagey at the beginning. But the one thing I really did appreciate about his performance is I really do feel like he became more grounded throughout the film. And I don't know if that was intentional or not. It's hard to tell sometimes with Cage, but at the beginning, especially when it's again, the physicality of Cage comes to play here. At the beginning, he's just over the top, just arrogant, douchey piece of shit. You find out cop. And then as he's going through the investigation, he becomes more human. And I feel like the moment he puts that white shirt on, he's a totally different person, and he starts really calming down, and you really start seeing him go become more human and more analytical, and you find out he's actually a pretty smart guy, even to his buddies' surprise. But then at the end you get back to Cage, where sometimes his physicality doesn't always match the tone of the movie. Where he's stumbling around for 20 minutes to get back there.
I mean, he did just get beaten up by the heavyweight champion of the world.
I know, and I think part of the problem is that they really that scene went on way too long, and so, but it I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, I'll give him a 6 in the movie, a 6 as well. I did really enjoy his performance more than I thought I would, looking at it with a more critical eye. Both could have been 100 times better, but I don't want to beat it up too hard. Unlike Outcast, that movie's a piece of shit. But so 6s across the board.
All right, Nigel, where does Snake Eyes rate on your Cageometer?
I've never seen this before, but I echo a lot. I went through the same process that Vince mentioned. He's seen this, he likes this one a lot. I liked this a lot as I was watching it. I felt that it was pretty sharp. I was kind of not understanding why I hadn't heard much about this one until the end. They started to derail, and I'm like, okay, I get why this is not spoken very highly of in critical or audience circles. But I think some people like it, and I think it's a little bit underrated. I guess considering I also have not watched a lot of De Palma movies, and I can see how, if you are used to the pedigree of a lot of his other the other stuff he's done, like Untouchables and Scarface, and I'm trying to remember there are other good movies in there, that this is a little bit of a disappointment. So I suppose they can't all be ringers.
I think it was Carlito's Way was the movie he did right before this, and that one was really critically acclaimed. So to go from Carlito's Way to this, I feel like that's why.
Yeah.
I think that we'd mentioned there was a lot of biblical undertones of this and themes and motifs that I think are a little bit lost. I can see that he's going for it, but we said the whole ending was supposed to be in his words, the only way to stop this level of corruption is for a literal act of God to come and wash it away. That's in his mind. That's what we were dealing with, is a conspiracy and corruption this deep. even a single person can't stop it. And so God has to come and do it. But based on what we saw, I don't think that's as present in the movie. And I think it probably wasn't present in the test screenings version with the original ending of the tidal wave knocking the globe in, and then it rolls through and it kills Kevin, like it crushes him Indiana Jones style, while Rick and the girl in white kind of shove off to the side as it passes over them. And then they almost drown as the tunnel fills with water, which is supposed to be like washing away all of his sins, for it. And it's a very biblical, the giant flood coming through and wiping out, great areas of sin and stuff. But I don't know if that would be a better ending. That also feels kind of like, okay, sure. I mean, it's like the same criticism I gave to like Longlegs, where it kind of came like, oh, the devil's doing all of this. But it's like, oh, it's an act of God dealing with all this sin and stuff. It just kind of seems lame to me, but that was his original vision, and the studio kind of meddled with it a bit and changed it around. I can see how the ending kind of became nonsense, but at least in this ending, Kevin kind of kills himself out of his own actions finally catch up to him, and he ultimately has to kill himself over it and take that action himself rather than God doing it for him, I suppose. Yeah. And maybe there's a little bit more of a lesson there too, but yeah, I don't know. Pacing wise, I think, like I said, it was great. I was really engaged the whole time I was watching it. I really loved the single, everybody praises the 12-minute single opening shot, which I think is very valid. Took a lot of technical skill to pull that off, especially with the amount of extras that are doing stuff and the choreography of everything that's going on in it, and the steady cam and all the blocking and all of that stuff. Very impressive for that. But yeah, I think I'll give this one a 6. I was leaning towards 7, but again, the more you analyze it, the more holes you find in it, and it just kind of brings you down ultimately over it. So I think a 6 is where I'll land on it. It's solid. It's good. I recommend watching it, but it's not kind of just a lot of little things keeping it from getting into that great status, I guess. Cage, I'll be a little bit more, what's the opposite of critical? Praising, I guess. I think it's a 7 to me, because I felt like, aside from his over-the-topness in the intro, which again I think was supposed to be showing that this is him on his day off. This is just who he is. He's the hustler. He's the big, larger-than-life guy who's like knows everybody and is always wheeling and dealing and making moves. And he's a little corrupt, but as we find out, he's got a heart of gold. But as the movie went on and he dialed in and actually had to go to work, I really felt like his performance was believable as a guy who knew his shit, was very detail oriented, and was a really good investigator. And he definitely sold, I think, the moral quandary that he ends up in. You can tell how conflicted he is and upset about it. And just in most of the other moments in the movie, I felt like he was pretty convincing as the character of Rick Santoro, as a good guy with a heart of gold, with some skill, who maybe falls victim to some vices. And I mean, everybody does. That's the point of the deadly sins being warnings to everybody. But when he ultimately makes that choice to not take it to the level of corruption that Kevin has fallen into, it's definitely understandable and believable, and I think he did good. Again, his physical acting I thought was really good, especially after he got the shit kicked out of him by Tyler. Like, he definitely seems like somebody who's punch drunk with some mild brain damage and concussion and stuff, just stumbling around into it. Aside from the fact that sort of makes the ending kind of weird and clunky, but I think he did fine selling that. I really felt like he was somebody that got beat up. So yeah, even in that, I think he did a pretty good job with it. So this must have definitely, that single take must have been very challenging to try and pull off. And I think it's a bit over the top, but I'll give him a little bit of leeway with it, because how challenging that must have been to try and, I can't even imagine, like, not being an actor at all, but just to have to, I don't know how much of that was improv, how much was rehearsed, but he at least had to know the blocking and where he had to be and get everything timed down to, the second on how all of that plays out. And he just switches from one thing to the next so much throughout that entire opening. It's like, it's pretty impressive that he pulled that off. So I think that's very, praise him for that. And then general the more subdued and human side of Rick Santoro that we see as the movie goes along. I think he did a very good job with that as well. So yeah, I'll give him a 7. I think it's a good performance.
Yeah, pulling that off from a technical standpoint, even just not even thinking about the performances of the actors is extremely difficult. Getting that right one time.
It would be hard to pull that off in like a stage play atmosphere where they have to do everything, all at once, let alone the fact that he's going from so many different areas and moving from one thing to the other and doing so many different things physically. And, it's pretty crazy that they were able to get that and execute that well. The
balls to try and pull that off, to open your movie and set up the entire murder mystery.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible. On my Cageometer, I've waffled on this. Like Vince, I watched this a long time ago and I have like a lot of nostalgia for it. But like once I started breaking it down, I was like, wow, there are a lot of issues with this movie. And even like going through it with you guys, I found even more. Like there's even more things. Like when I was going through it, breaking it down, I was just like, Jesus, there's a lot of stuff that they didn't really think about, or they threw out, or they just didn't explain, or whatever. So I'm going to be a little bit more critical. I'm going to give it a 5. I think it deserves a 5 alone just for that opening shot, the 13-minute single take. But I just feel like overall it was just kind of like a lot of things got kind of muddled, and then at certain points the pacing wasn't great to me, where I was just like, it's just kind of dragging in spots. I feel like there's a lot of little issues that I didn't really like, and I feel like there's a lot of things that I feel like could have been better. Like I didn't love the music. I didn't feel like the music's fit in a lot of the scenes. I feel like it was a little overpowering. Like we said in that crescendo at the end of the movie, you can't even hear Gary Sinise yelling at him because the music is just like going nuts.
Yeah.
There's like 3 scenes where I'm like, the music was so fucking insane that I was just like, whoa, calm down. What is going on? And it was like, didn't really fit the mood of it.
No.
Yeah. Cinematography, amazing. Editing was pretty solid, though. I feel like they probably had to change a lot of things that were supposed to be explained that weren't explained because they had to cut this thing down. I feel like that was probably a studio note, was like, this is really long and boring. Can we bring it down to 98? I do feel like Brian De Palma is famous for having pretty long films and very like ambitious projects, where it's like he probably wanted this thing to be 3 hours long and had to cut it down to 98. So I guess editing wise, that was a pretty tall feat to pull off. Acting was pretty solid across the board. I feel like Gary Sinise is a little wooden at times, but that's when he turns into psycho mode. He's kind of, just a kind of a cold-blooded killer at that point. I don't like the reveal, the way that they did the reveal. I hated that.
Agreed.
I was like, what? So we're just giving it away that easy? Like,
yeah. I forgot,
and it was
to mention
really
that too.
early on too.
Yeah, it's like the first third of the movie, or it seems like, I can't remember. But
it's revealed in Act 1 that he's the bad guy.
Yeah,
isn't it like at the very end of Act 1? It's like,
yeah, that's where Act 1 wraps up. Is that the reveal of him killing the redneck redhead?
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I don't know. It's not a perfect movie. It's not a great movie in my opinion after watching it after so many years. But it is a fun movie and it's a solid movie. It's just kind of middle of the road in my opinion. So I think I'll stick with a 5. As far as Nick, I agree with your guys' points. He's on off-duty mode at the beginning of the movie, but is so fucking over the top at points where I was just like, I cannot give him higher than a 6. So that's where I'm going to land. Is like, he took me so out of so many moments in the movie where it's just like, Lincoln Tyler, like, dude, calm down. Like, bring it down. You're at like 15. We need you at like 5, 6 in this moment. Like, bring it down, man.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many moments, so many cagey moments in this film. There's just like, he does a good job of doing that switch. Like you guys said, of like, he goes from off-duty mode, he's so full of himself and so cocky and like, I'm the king of everything, but really he's just a pawn in the scheme of everything that's going on. So he does a good job of switching that. But like, even in the moment when he first switches into detective mode and he goes in and confronts Lincoln Tyler, like, that scene is also like really fucking over the top. And I'm like, is this effective in a investigation? I don't know. So like, from that point on, I feel like his acting is amazing. From after that scene, when he realizes there's more going on than what he thought, I think he does an incredible job, maybe aside from some of the final moments in the movie.
Snake eyes.
I'm not even like critical of that, because he would have been, his brain was mush at that point.
Yeah.
It's mostly that final scene where he's like talking to the girl on the boardwalk, where I'm just like, God damn, dude, you're I don't know. I also blame De Palma for that, because like, he was really trying to make that Chinatown and it was not.
Yeah.
I can't give him higher than a 6 just because of like the so over the fucking top at points, which is why we love him. But at the same time, it's like kind of took me out of the movie, and like everything that they were trying to set up here, I feel like you almost like lose track of what's happening just because of how fucking insane Rick Santoro is through the opening of the movie. So I'm landing at a 6.